So today I was watching some videos before WWE's Crown Jewel event and after the event. Mostly from the channel of Audit the Audit. This channel basically takes every police scenario and goes into in-depth analysis of what is happening in the video. And this guy, who owns the channel, does a phenomenal job. He gives ratings, and I have to say I'm really disappointed. I mean, I am a law enforcement supporter. I support our men and women in blue. I'm very thankful that they sacrifice, their lives to keep the community safe. But the ones that I don't support are the ones who, in a nutshell, are crook cops, plain and simple. And I would have no problem calling out a bad cop if I see one. But overall, I do support law enforcement. I support the men and women in blue, and I think it was just last week we hit 100 line of duty deaths this year, and I think we've now reached 101, 102 people. I would like to see violence on our law enforcement stop. The last time we had fewer than 100 officers killed in a year was 1943. It was 99. But it's been at least 100 or more ever since. So I would like to see 2020 snap that straight, to get that out of the way. But, as I said, there are a few officers that I can't support because of their tactics. They're straight up lies, then there was one, I'll talk about one that wasn't covered by Audit the Audit. It was another YouTuber, forget their name, but he had like a 38-minute video on a guy who was driving with a suspended license, as if that's the crime of the century, which it isn't. In this video, this officer lies right out of the gate. He pulled up behind a car that was suspected to be stolen. When the actuality was, he was just driving with a suspended license. Hardly anything near close to the crime of the century. He tells the guy to stop the car, he pulls over immediately. But because he's not superhuman, the officer just gets upset and says, put your hands on the car, do it now, And then he holsters his gun. He goes and pats the guy down. The officer's name is John Crowder. And this officer was lying through his teeth, literally, and like everything that comes out of that officer's mouth, it was a lie. Knowing full well in the video, he noticed that the guy had handcuffs. Big deal. There's no crime or law that would say, oh, civilians can't have handcuffs, without sounding like dirty-minded. You got people who get into in kinky relationships, and they do that kind of thing, so having a pair of handcuffs is not illegal, but the officer noticed that this guy had a pair of handcuffs. But during the video, he gets like, "Oh, I thought it was a gun. I was in fear of my life." No, what this officer was doing was, because of the fact he had stripes on his sleeve, it's like, "Oh yeah, I get to be a big shot today. I get to make somebody say a living hell." That's exactly what his intent was. And he had the guy arrested. The guy was compliant. He stopped the car, put his hands out. He didn't have no weapons on him whatsoever. And so he and another officer are, owning the suspect like this, basically breaking the guy's arms. But the guy goes on and says, "Oh, it was in fear of my life. I was in immediate danger." No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You were just ready to abuse your powers. I got the badge. I got the stripes. Yeah, nobody's going to stop me. But your own camera caught you in a number of lies. You said, "I thought it was a handgun," when originally what you said was, "It's handcuffs." And then just because the guy didn't do, real super fast to your response, or the fact that you didn't like what he said, you arrest him. You broke 2 of his arms. And you wonder why there's a distrust between the public and law enforcement. It's because of officers like you. Officer Crowder. I shouldn't even give you the title officer, because you did not conduct yourself in a manner of professionalism. Period. And when I saw that video, that made my, blood boil a little bit, because law enforcement is to protect and serve. Not act like a bat out of hell and go crazy and making up lies one way or the other. "Oh, I thought I thought those were, those handcuffs were guns." You were caught on video saying you knew it was handcuffs. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words with that one. The next one I want to talk about, Officer Kakobach, if that's how you pronounce his name. He's the officer in Ohio who was looking for his daughter. Now, mind you, his daughter was 18 at the time. She was dating a black man, well within her rights, something that she had the right to do. But because this officer didn't like the guy, he threatens to arrest, pulls him over, takes him out of the car, and the officer said, he said to the officer, "What am I being stopped for?" And the officer had made the expression, "We'll make shit up as we go." It's exactly what he said. That right there, it's cases like that, and statements like that, why the distrust of people that they have for law enforcement is getting bigger. You didn't want to de-escalate the situation. You wanted to escalate it because you were trying to find your daughter. And because you said, "Oh, she's suicidal." That was you made that up in your mind. You clearly abused your powers. You did. And you were rightfully taken off the force as you should have been. Under no circumstances during that stop did you act in a manner of professionalism. Not once. You threatened arrest to anybody who was not telling you where your daughter was. Your daughter is 18 years old, or was 18. She was well within her legal rights of choosing not to be seen. You were taken off the force because of your unlawful stop, your unprofessional behavior, and you did not have the right to interfere in your daughter's relationship that she was happy to be in. Most parents would be happy for their children. Yeah, I'm glad you found somebody that you love. Because when they're in that relationship, that shows that they want that they're perfectly capable of being independent. You can't keep your kids locked at home forever. Once they're 18, they can do whatever they want, provided that they don't break the law in doing so. The two officers that I just mentioned gets a big F. A big time F. So, those are two officers right there that would never get my respect. Because they want to abuse their powers. But like I said, I support law enforcement. But only the ones who do their jobs the right way. Who do their jobs the right way. Here's just, I can't, if I see an officer, if I'm physically seeing something going on, and I see an officer who is 100% in the wrong, I'm going to do my best to make sure that that officer gets held accountable for their actions. The third one I want to talk about is one that I've seen where an officer in a small town in Ohio sees somebody riding his bike, minding his own business, going about his day, and the officer says, you know what, he looks suspicious to me. I've never seen him before. Well, just because you've never seen him before doesn't really articulate a reason to make a stop. Because he was not in an act of committing a violence, about to commit a violence, or the reasonable suspicion that he was going to. All he would do was ride his bike. And you say, oh, I've been on the force for, 27 years? Something like that. I've never seen you around here before. Big deal. You know, I get it. Small towns is where people are much likely to know each other, but that's not always the case. When I lived in the western part of Maryland, pretty much everybody knew me. Not all, but pretty much everybody did. But if I saw somebody just speaking from a police officer standpoint, even though I've never been a cop, but speaking from a police officer standpoint, if I saw somebody in a town that I didn't recognize, that's not even grounds right there to say, hey, I never seen you around here before. You need to identify yourself. But because I haven't seen you before, what did I do? So, but in the end, the bicyclist was, went on his way, and that was the end of the thing. That was the end of that there. So, I'm making this video because I've heard people, well, not heard, read on YouTube, people making comments, oh, there's no such thing as a good cop. Yeah, there is. But also, there's bad cops that do exist. And I'm not afraid to admit that. But because if you have one cop who's bad, that doesn't mean the whole rest of the department is the same as that individual. So, I get there's people that hate cops. My dad hates cops. I've known that since I was a kid. He told me one time that I had no moral ethics because I was talking to a cop. He said people in our family don't talk to cops. My response, well, Dad, that's your prerogative. That's your prerogative. Your prerogative doesn't have to be mine. Mine doesn't have to be yours. If I'm going to talk to a police officer, I'm going to talk to a police officer. I don't need your permission. I've been around on this earth for over 14 years. And it's my decision, my right to talk to a police officer. And whether I talk to a police officer or not has no bearing on my reputation. None whatsoever. So, you can have your own feelings about police officers, and I'll have mine. One time when I was in Las Vegas, I walked up to an officer, I shook his hand, I said, thank you for your sacrifices of what you do to keep communities safe, and, he thanked me back, so, I have a great deal of respect for law enforcement, and you should do. I say to the cop haters, you sit there and you call cops pigs, but you better hope and pray that one day you won't need those cops. But when you do, they're going to show you the professionalism of their job and say, hey, you know what? Just because you hate us doesn't mean that we can't do our duty to serve and protect you. Officers are held to a high standard. They enforce the laws. And good 90-95% of them do their job by the book. Some maybe misquote some laws, but overall, I give them a B+. I'm going to give them an A, but some police departments, when something is amiss, they just sweep it under the rug. That's why I can't give them. So anyway, I'm going to end the video on that. I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. Bye.